Hi, my name is Krit Komkrichwarakool and I'm the director and writer of Organic. And here are my answers to Tinsel Tine's 5 questions to indie filmmakers.
This came out of your body?
Yes.
That is unusual.
That's where I come in, Mr. Reed. We'd like to continue researching your case with a generous compensation for your time, of course.
Why are you worried about how much they're worth? There's literally something wrong with me.
You don't know that there's anything wrong with you.
Organic is an 2S LGBTQIA+ romantic drama about this married gay couple who came across this special ability while they were having sex. And this ability promised them some financial gain that come between their relationship, and we follow them as they navigate through this strange situation. I'm always fascinated by the relationship between queer people, and I always wanted to do something a little bit different for queer cinema and take our story into as many genres as possible. One of the things that I always feel growing up is that I did feel like we have a very narrow representation of our story. We either fall into a very comedic tone most of the time that we became the butt of the joke, or it's a very tragic story. And while those traumatic stories are still very important to talk about, I do feel like there's a place for a lighter tone and a little bit more positive representation for our community, and that's why I decided to make this film about a queer couple and to show that a hopeful portrayal of our very vibrant community, and that our mundaneness and our everyday life can be just as interesting. Organic music is composed by Aaron Smell, who is a composer based in Toronto. He worked with my producer, King Louis Palomo, previously on that project together. When we look for the composer, initially we wanted to make sure that not only this composer have to capture whatever we see on screen, but also understand the simplicity that we were going for. And that's why we decided together to choose a very quiet type of score to accompany this film. And luckily we both agree on the power of the simplicity of it all, and we decided to go with the piano piece. I think because the film itself we try to be as authentic as possible, so we didn't include too much of music to begin with. So whatever we decided to put on has to be something that's not pulling attention from the scene, while we also building up this anticipation of the final moment that we have included the cello suite from Bach. I think the contrast between the classical music and what's happening on screen at the end built a really great storytelling, and it felt right for the ending, as well as the quieter score throughout the film that I thought Aaron did such an amazing job on it. One of the things that I decided when I started writing this film was to make it into a comedy, because it was such an obvious thing to do because of the absurdity of it all. But once we starting to get together with the team, we find out that it's a lot more sensitive story. It's about these two people. So we ended up toning down the comedic elements quite a bit, while the film still has a very specific type of humor with like a lot of deadpan comedy. My fear was that it wouldn't translate to the audience, and I think the most memorable to me was when I went to Palm Springs to watch the film together with the audience in the festival the first time. And people actually still found it really funny, even in a moment that I felt like I wasn't sure if it was gonna come across very well. They still found it very funny, and just to hear people laugh, hear people react to the drama of it all, it just felt amazing. And I think to watch the film in the theater with the audience and hearing all those reactions, it's just an amazing feeling, and I think that's something that I will never forget. There's so many amazing people working on this film, and it's impossible to name everybody, but just to name a few. Coming into this film specifically, it was quite a few years since the last time I made the film before this one. So it was a lot of new people that we got to work together. My producer, King Louis Palomo, we had a conversation on one of the projects in the past, but we didn't end up working together then. So when I had this project, I went to him and asked, hey, if we want to work together. We decided that we want this to be a very small crew, very intimate, so that it feels like the environment is suitable for the type of film that we're making. But that means that a lot of day-to-day tasks really fell to him, but he did such an amazing job as a producer, and I really felt like I had a lot of space as a director to work with just because he took on so much during the day. My cinematographer, Joseph Schwartz, is someone that I wanted to work with for a really long time, and when I learned that King had worked with him before, so I decided that why don't we just ask and see if he's available. And when he said yes, I think we found a common ground really quickly because we have a very similar sense of visual storytelling, and he's a very talented guy, and I'm just feeling really lucky to still be working with him until these days. Another person that I wanted to shout out is my friend Greg Sanchez, who was a script supervisor on this project, and it was the first time that we worked together on a film, and we still work together until now. And I just don't think that I would get here mentally and physically without his help, because he's so willing to support me in every way, and I'm just so grateful to have him as a friend. Five favorite things, that is such a hard question. I think it's always changing. But the first one that came to mind is definitely Her by Spike Jonze. It's a romantic sci-fi about this designer who worked with an AI and they fell in love essentially. I thought it was such an interesting concept, as well as how it talks about human relationship through this technology that we are all living in right now, and I just thought it was a fascinating story. The second film would be Weekend by Andrew Hage. At the time that I watched this film, I didn't quite get exposed to a lot of queer cinema in this way. It really was just about these two guys finding this connection, and they talk about their life and they talk about the perspective on queer relationship. I thought it was such a great introduction to his work, and I'm still very much influenced by his sense of storytelling until these days. The third film, I would say it's God's Own Country by Francis Lee, which is another queer love story. But I think what really interests me about this film is how simple this film was made, as well as because it was also at the farm, it felt nostalgic to me, and how this film is conveyed its emotions in such a simplistic way. I felt really connected to the film, as well as how the film ended. That I just thought, this guy is really special, and I can't wait to see what he's doing next. The fourth film is Arrival by Denis Villeneuve, and I think everybody knows him at this point. I always really fascinated by his style, but this film specifically, it's a much more quiet film from him, and I think I'm really just fascinated by the idea of language in general. And good science fictions explore human condition, and I think this film is really great representation of this genre, and I'm really happy that Denis is getting the recognitions he deserves. My fifth favorite film is Violent by Andrew Huster. He's a Vancouver filmmaker. My cinematographer, Joseph, also worked on this film as well. And they took 5 people going to Norway when they don't speak the language and shot a really, really amazing film. I think it's their masterpiece in my opinion. And it's truly still inspired me with how they explore the slow cinema of it all, and as well as a really, really beautiful cinematography. And if you haven't seen this film, I really recommend it. The ending is just something that is so special to me, so go watch it. Thank you, Tinsel and Tine, for having me, and thank you for listening to my answers. You can follow our journey at Organic Film on Instagram, and I hope to see you at film festivals.
Before we begin contracting Mr. Reed, our company must ask for a demonstration with our researchers to verify the authenticity.